Hey YouTube, today I'm going to walk you through 3 tips that you can use to help you drop body fat without tracking calories. If you do find this video helpful, please do drop a like. If you have any questions throughout, throw them down below. I'll get back to you. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe so you can keep up to date with future videos which are going to help you and your goal. Now, before I get into those 3 reasons, I quickly want to address tracking calories in itself. Okay? Some people are going to find tracking calories very, very beneficial, right? For the majority of people who, let's say, don't have a terrible relationship with food, with numbers and whatnot, I think tracking calories can be very beneficial for educational purposes and for accuracy when it comes to hitting targets and therefore helping you with your goal. However, for some people, tracking calories is not going to be very beneficial for them because it might hinder their relationship with food and themselves. And 2, some people just don't want to track calories, okay, which is fine. So I'm going to walk you through in this video how you can not track calories and still drop body fat, and 3 tips which are going to help you do that. Number 1 is snack less, okay? However, when you snack less, you need to combine that with eating bigger meals, but with a priority on foods that are going to fill you up. So this is one big tip and almost sort of combining 2 things together. So let's walk through them. First and foremost, less snacking, okay? Now, this isn't to say snacking is necessarily bad. However, for the most part, when people do snack, they are on foods that are very calorie dense, okay? And low in volume. So for example, this might be like processed foods, like this might be like crisps, like biscuits, sweets, chocolate, just as examples. But typically they're foods that are high in calories, which means if we're snacking here and there frequently, it might make it harder for us to keep our food controlled and managed. And secondly, if they're also low in volume, which they typically are, these snacks aren't really going to help keep us feeling full, okay? So we might consume these things, still be hungry, and therefore leading us to overconsume even more, or the potential to overconsume. So snacks in general aren't necessarily bad if you're being smart about it, which I'm going to come on to. But in general, I think it's an easy way for people to overconsume without even really being aware of it. So if you really want to keep snacks in, even if you go through the second stage of this tip, which I'm going to walk through, and we still have the urge to snack, you can, or you should, then make smart choices about what you're snacking on. Okay, now this day and age, you can easily find snacks that are lower in calories, almost alternatives to your standard snacks. So for example, with crisps, you can now get crisps, alternatives, that are just a lot lower in calories. Okay, like lentil chips, for example. You can get pots of jelly, which are only like 60 calories. Okay, so you can look for different alternatives, which might still fill that snack sort of item, that food, but are going to help keep calories a lot lower. The second part of this tip is, if we're not snacking, try and have bigger meals, but bigger meals that are also full of foods that are going to fill us up. Okay, so high volume foods, which we're also going to come on to. The reason why we want to make sure those meals are full of those sort of foods is because if we just eat more and we're not careful about the foods that we're consuming, then again, the calories that we are replacing from the snacks might just go into the meals, and therefore our total amount of food intake might just be the same across the day anyway. So we do want bigger meals, but bigger meals of the right types of foods. And again, those types of foods are going to be higher volume foods and lower calories, which we are going to come on to. Secondly, this is one that works very well, but a lot of people don't do. When you do eat your food, okay, slow down when you're eating, right? Now, the reason why this is so important is because when you slow down when you're eating, 1, you actually enjoy the meal a lot more, but 2, you also become aware of when you're actually full or when you're getting full. Everyone nowadays, and even I'm bad for doing this, if you're busy or even if you're not busy, people just in the habit of just wolfing down their food. Okay, eat it as fast as you can, you just get it down, right? It's very easy to overconsume when you do that because you're not very good at recognizing your hunger sort of cues, right? So you might not feel as if you're full when you're eating very, very quickly, but if you slow down and be mindful of what you're eating, all of a sudden you actually might realize those fullness cues a lot earlier than you normally would if you were just going crazy and smashing down that food very quickly. So it can be a very good tactic to just help you manage hunger during that meal, or recognizing hunger and fullness, should I say, during that meal, which then might mean that you actually stop a little bit sooner than you would have in the past, and therefore you're actually reducing your calorie intake. Plus, you want to enjoy your food, so slow down. And then tip number 3, which we did touch on a little bit in tip number 1, but we're going to go into a little bit more detail. Have more high volume foods. Okay, so that might be stuff like veg intake is a big one, right? Veg intake takes up a lot of your plate, and high volume foods that are typically lower in calories is even more beneficial, okay? But higher volume foods like veg, include more of that in your diet and replace some of your carbs, fats, with that more high volume food like veg, okay? That's going to help, one, reduce calories, because you're replacing typically more higher calorie options like the carbs, okay, and like the fats, and you're replacing that with lower calorie options but also higher volume options, which is then going to help manage hunger as well, okay? So we're reducing calories and we're managing hunger a lot better, which is going to help us to be consistent in our calorie deficit. So there you have it. 3 tips to help you drop body fat without tracking calories. Okay. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please drop a like. If you did have any questions, throw them down in the comments now. I'll get back to you. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.